Department of Labor works on behalf of both workers and businesses. We provide income support to workers who have lost their jobs, and we ensure that employees receive proper pay and work in safe conditions. We help businesses find and maintain a skilled workforce, and we provide them with no-cost services designed to help them thrive in New York's growing economy. One of Governor Cuomo's 2018 State of the State proposals directed me to evaluate through a series of hearings the possibility of ending minimum wage tip credits in New York State. In some workplaces, such as car washes and restaurants, where wages and tips are generally both low, a worker's income can rely entirely on their tips. These tips, meant as a reward for good service, instead serve as a critical wage subsidy that brings workers' wages up to just the legally mandated minimum wage. This system disproportionately impacts women and minorities and prevents some workers from coming forward to voice concerns, fearing retaliation. Governor Cuomo has directed this agency to ensure that no workers are more susceptible to exploitation because they rely on tips to survive. This is the second of 7 hearings to solicit public comment on how best to address potentially eliminating the minimum wage tip credit. Before regulations are formally advanced related to the subminimum wage, we want to hear from workers about how the subminimum wage impacts their ability to earn a fair wage as it relates to tips and raise a family. We want to hear from businesses and other industry professionals how the subminimum wage impacts how you run your business and interact with your workers. We understand that we are talking about potentially changing rules that have been in place for decades, and that is why we are here, to ensure any actions are fair and well thought out. Through these hearings, we are asking for input about the scope of the problem and the potential scope of our solutions, including any hardships created by the subminimum wage, reasons for and ramifications of eliminating the subminimum wage in your industry, and recommendations for the elimination timeline should we move in that direction, and complicating factors. Let me also draw an important distinction here. As the sign here says, this hearing is about eliminating the subminimum wage. It is not about eliminating tipping. We fully support tipping and workers' rights to earn those tips here in New York State. In fact, when the federal government looks to attack workers' tips, in New York State, we will continue to protect your tips. Another important point I want to make is that these hearings are not about the number of people in the room. Through these hearings, we are collecting your stories, related data, and the insights that only you can provide. I'd like to introduce members of our panel listening today. Mario Mussolino, Executive Deputy Commissioner. Natalie Carey, Deputy Commissioner, Administration and Chief Financial Officer. James Rogers, Deputy Commissioner, Worker Protection. And in the audience, our alternate Milan Bach, the Assistant Deputy Commissioner for Worker Protection. Testimony will be strictly limited to 3 minutes per speaker to allow as many people as possible to testify. In addition, though we value your testimony, we will not allow any substitution of speaker slots or allow testimony to be read on behalf of another individual who is not here. You will get a yellow warning light at 30 seconds left. It will show red when your time is up. Before we begin, I want to thank everyone here for taking the time to participate in today's hearings, and I want to thank you for the insights that you all can provide us to help us address these very important issues. One last point. I understand that this is a very passionate subject for many, many people, and I urge all of us to respect the speakers regardless of whether we agree with their point of view or not. Thank you.
So we'll have our first 5 speakers come to the front, please. That'll be Stacey Carr, Yamila Ruiz, Sean Gaffigan, Jeffrey Graham, and Orlando Charles. Please come to these 5 seats on the left-hand side of the front.
Stacey Carr?
Yes. I'm going to ask everybody in this room to do me a favor. Imagine the best dining experience you ever had. What made it great? I'm sure it wasn't just because your steak was perfectly cooked, your fries were the right amount of crunch, or that your beer was ice cold. I would bet a lot had to do they strive to make those memorable dining experiences for the folks just like you sitting in this room. Eliminating the tip credit would not allow them to do what they love to do, provide exceptional service through their pride, passion, and personality that makes each of their guests stay better. As a business owner, I support 62 families. Eliminating the tip credit would be detrimental to not only my restaurant, but the industry. At a restaurant that once supported 20 servers on a Saturday night, I now can only support 16. Just how low does that number go as the wages continue to increase? On a typical 60-minute dining experience, the server spends an average of 7 minutes with the guest. By eliminating the tip credit, I will only have 12 servers at most on the floor. With all these extra tables, how much time will they have to spend with each guest to create that memorable experience? While I understand eliminating the tip credit won't eliminate tipping, I can say that I'll be less inclined to leave 20% when I can't find my server. If the tip credit is eliminated, they may earn a similar income, but they will have to work twice as hard for it. The support staff is already gone. We took that away when we went from $5 to $7.50. When we took that increase, we saw the industry eliminate those support roles. Bussers, food runners, expos, those positions just don't exist anymore. I recently went out to eat and was told I could pay my bill at the kiosk at my table because, and I quote, "We don't want to hold our guests hostage, but who knows when I will be able to get back over here." That's not the type of service I want to provide or force upon my customers. As a restaurateur, I told you, I support 62 families. As wage rise, I will be able to support fewer families. I could cut corners, but that would be wrong. Speaking of wrong, I heard a lot of testimonials in Long Island that speak to labor law violations. I would tell you that if you currently work for somebody willing to break these laws, do you really think they will become a kinder, gentler employer when they have to pay you a higher wage? If you have a dishonest boss, report them or leave. I'm always hiring great people. Please don't allow the actions of a few to ruin the industry I love and prevent me from offering the same opportunities someone once gave me. Thank you.
Camilla Ruiz? Camilla? No? Okay. Jeffrey Graham?
Yes. Well, thank you. Good morning, Commissioner and members of the panel, for this opportunity to discuss the tip wage proposal and the effect it and other policy has on small business. Welcome to the North Country. My name is Jeff Graham. I have the honor of serving as mayor of this city for 20 years, and for the past 33 years, I've owned a neighborhood tavern called the Pearl Street Pub. Signing the front side of a paycheck, the times you wonder if the doors can stay open, and the lost sleep over making payroll tends to steal one's attitudes towards further regulations and mandates. Recently, I received my liquor license renewal, and in a letter accompanying the license was not a thank you for my $2,000, but an ominous notice to comply with an expanding list of regulations. The letter said the SLA is part of a joint task force on employee misclassification and worker exploitation. The premise of all this is that we as businessmen and women are exploiters. Well, I look at myself as the one who sometimes has to make less so I can make payroll. All I see from Albany are new regulations on how we schedule, a family leave act we don't need, compliance audits that stress a business with no HR office, mandated increases in wages that bear no relation to the marketplace. As a tavern owner with only one person on duty, I've never used the subminimum wage, but I understand my restaurant brethren and their dismay. To attract good people, I depend on being able to offer a better wage than, say, a restaurant server. I pay my head bartender $13 an hour, and overtime is $19.50. She's a good employee, and with tips, this 21-year-old does quite well. You see, I believe good people should make more money. As the minimum wage goes higher, I'll be forced to pay it $20 an hour, and the economics just don't work. To make even higher wages work, we'll have to have fewer people, as drastically higher prices will not be accepted by our clientele. Nobody in the city of Watertown has ever gone to the Four Seasons for a $50 hamburger. I've read of some trying to frame this pay issue as a racial or discrimination issue. It is said the system promotes abuse of women. All of this are false smears and political sophistry. We care about our employees, our business, and our customers. Proposals like this enacted without the consent of the governed through our elected legislature are wrong and are death on the entrepreneurial spirit. This may be the new New York, but it's not a better New York. I urge rejection of this initiative. It is clearly a solution in search of a problem and will only hurt small businesses that are the backbone of our local economy. Commissioner, I thank you and the panel for your attention and hope you enjoy your stay in Watertown.
Thank you. Orlando Charles. Do I have Orlando Charles? No. Mia Johnson? Mia Johnson. It was. Yes. David Neal. David. Okie dokie. Rhonda Carlisle.
After Rhonda, our next 5 speakers are David Jimenez, Josh Kellerman, Sonia Ward-O, Karen Cordeling, and Michael Lettier. If you're one of those people, please come to these 5 chairs in the front and give me the copies of your written testimony so I can provide them to the panel when you go. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Rhonda Carlisle. I've been in this business 31 years. I started as a host cashier. At the time I started, subminimum wage was $1.90 an hour. I am very nervous.
Okay, relax. We don't fight.
I will be honest, when I started, I was a single mom. I worked 20 hours a week, making as much money as people working 40 hours a week. I was able to not pay a babysitter, be able to pay my bills without using any kind of form of welfare or help from the state. I am now a manager at a Hilton Garden Inn. My employees range from making $15 to $20 an hour, working 20 to 30 hours a week. I don't see any benefit to our guests, our employees, or even our business. My employer will have to cut our amount of employees once this minimum wage goes into effect. And as far as not eliminating tipping, people will not tip as much as they do now, knowing that our employees already make minimum wage. For instance, we do a lot of fun functions at our place. My employees worked a 5-hour function, and if they had stuck to the minimum wage, they would have made $52 for that evening. Instead, with the 18% gratuity already added in, they made $140.50 a piece that day. That's triple what we are saying we want to pay these people. Serving, delivery drivers, these are manual positions. There is a lot of physical labor that goes into what these people do every day. I really think the governor should maybe step in our shoes for 24 hours and see what we do. We deserve more than minimum wage. We earn our money, and we continue to want to earn our money. And I think the governor is taking that away from us and away from our employees. I'm a very simple person. Like I said, I do not have a high education, but this business has made me be able to take care of my family, my children, my grandchildren. I can't imagine going to a minimum wage position and working this hard. That's what I have for you today.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
David Jimenez, followed by Josh Kellerman.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner Reardon and members of the Department of Labor. I want to thank you for convening these hearings and giving us the opportunity to testify on why car wash workers need to have one fair wage plus their tips. My name is David Jimenez. I'm a lead organizer in the Retail Wholesale Department Store Union Car Wash Campaign. For the past 6 years, my union has been part of a coalition with Make the Road New York and Communities for Change with the goal to improve working conditions for the car wash industry. Over the 4 years that the car wash campaign has been organizing car wash workers the campaign represents have seen some improvements in salaries, vacation time, sick days, more importantly, respect. However, worker time and time again feel that their skill and hard work is not properly compensated. Tips are given by customers for workers' good service and not to help the employer pay for their workforce. Car wash workers are not just drying cars once the tunnel brushes do the cleaning job. Car wash workers have to upsell washes, drive, maintain equipment, and do industrial cleaning, to say the least. Car wash workers have to work with strong chemicals for a long and constant period of time without any training and with very little protective equipment. One of the most dangerous and dirtiest jobs in the car wash industry, for example, is that of cleaning the pit. The pit is part of the recycling system that stores water as well as mud, which consists of a cocktail of detergents, dirt, salt, strong chemicals that marinate many times for months. Car wash workers are sent to do this very specialized cleaning job with no training, no protective gear, and to confined spaces which are not properly compensated. An important part of the car wash business is their detail service. These types of jobs are specialized service assigned to experienced workers. These types of deep cleaning jobs can take worker an hour up to several hours, using specialized machines like buffers that can burn the paint off the car if not used properly. Workers who are detailers or detalleros in Spanish take pride in their work, as many times customers come specifically looking for them to detail their cars rather. But this type of cleaning jobs also take toll on workers' health. Many times they're performed outside, exposed to weather with most of the time heating in summer and chemicals. Have also caused many health issues to my detail members for asthma to skin irritations. I just wanted to finish up to thanking the governor, and hopefully we can have one fair wage plus our tips. Thank you.
Josh Kellerman, followed by Sonia Ward O.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Josh Kellerman. I'm the Director of Public Policy for the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, RWDSU. We represent over 100,000 workers, primarily in retail, food processing, and other low-wage sectors, including the car wash industry. Car wash workers want a minimum wage that they can rely on. They want the same minimum wage that nearly all other workers in the state receive. It is unjust and discriminatory that these workers are singled out for a subminimum wage. We are thankful that the New York State DOL is turning its full attention towards ending the subminimum wage and creating one fair wage with tips. Working at a car wash is a tough, low-paying, and dangerous job, yet RWDSU workers, working with our community partners, managed to organize dozens of car washes, improving the lives, working conditions, and wages for thousands of workers. On behalf of our workers, as well as the many other workers in the industry who do not have a collective voice on the job, we are requesting an end to the subminimum wage. From the beginning, car wash workers have complained about the subminimum wage. It is a confusing and convoluted system. It is hard for anyone to understand how the system works. Wage theft and other forms of worker abuse thrive in confusing regulatory systems, as workers, advocates, enforcement agencies, and even employers can't make heads or tails of the law. The subminimum wage policy in New York violates the simple rule that we learned as children. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. On the last page of my testimony, you will find a table that attempts to explain the current tip credit system. What should be clear from this table is how complex the subminimum wage system is when compared with one fair wage. As you can see from this graph, I'll show it around as well. On the left and right are the different subminimum wage systems in blue in the miscellaneous industries, which include car wash, nail salon, parking valet attendants, etc. And on the left is the hospitality industry, which is primarily restaurant workers. In the center is what one fair wage would look like, which is simply one wage, one minimum wage. Of course, people could earn more than a minimum wage, as they already do and would continue to do, and tips would be allowed on top of that. It just simplifies the system, and in a simple system, you can much more easily address issues of wage theft. There are several other reasons to end the subminimum wage and replace it with one fair wage. In the car wash industry, there is no customary tipping practice. Is it 10%, 20%, $5, $1? Actually, many people don't think they even need to tip at all because they don't know that these workers earn a subminimum wage. In addition, car wash work is seasonal. Workers never know whether they will earn enough in a particular day to pay rent or to buy food the next week. They cannot rely on tips to make ends meet in that industry. And let's not be fooled here. Raising the subminimum wage will still allow workers to earn tips. Raising the subminimum wage raises the floor on which all tips are earned, and we encourage the DOL to end subminimum wage and to retain tips for workers. Thank you.
Sonia Ward O. Sonia, are you here? Okay. Karen Korteling. Karen Korteling. Michael Lettieri.
After Michael, our next 5 speakers are Sarah Palmer, Kathy Tucker, Mary Wilsey, Mark Keller, and Kevin Goggins. If you're any of those 5 people, please come to the front here. If you have written copies of your testimony, please give them to me before you speak. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Board, I didn't have anything written. I feel like just shoot from the heart. This is what my parents and grandparents always told me, to speak from your heart. And this restaurant industry, I've been working as a server for Applebee's for 7 years. And it's allowed me to have a better quality of life for not only myself, but my family. And it's also allowed me to pursue not only several degrees, but also my master's degree. I will be becoming, shortly soon, a New York State teacher. Thank you. I love this state. I want to make this state even better. But to do this, we also need to remember that other people are trying to make their lives better. Not only are we striving for the top, we are also using our fuel of our dreams to power us. I mean, we all use our dreams to help us forward, to help us work harder, to work better. If we have one unfair wage, as I call it, other people want to be on those incentive to work harder. Does a plumber make as much as a doctor? Or does a car valet make as much as a doctor? Or, I mean, there's just no correlation. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. My main thing is that without this job, I wouldn't be able to get to where I am today. Many of us are single parents. Many of us have other dreams and aspirations. This is a stepping stone to something greater than ourselves. I believe that even people, even Jessica Parker, who has spoke against our tipping wages, our subminimum wage, but she wouldn't get here what she was. She wouldn't get here any other celebrity wouldn't get where they were if it not for their serving job. So my question is to you. I please beg to you to reconsider this legislation. I really implore you to seek out. Even I invite you to come work with me. I would be more than happy to show you the ropes. Don't worry, you don't have to worry handling the food. I'll do all the work. Maybe I'll cut you in. Well, thank you very much for your time, and hopefully it will come to some resolution. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Sarah Palmer. Sarah, thank you.
Good morning, and I'd like to thank Commissioner Reardon and the New York State Department of Labor for allowing me to share my comments today. My name is Sarah Palmer, and I currently live in Albany, New York, but I was born and raised in Jefferson County, specifically the Thousand Islands. I lived here for more than half of my life. I have personally not stayed in the area because there aren't many job opportunities that pay a wage to cover the rising costs of living here over the years, which has drastically skyrocketed. If you do not have a college degree, work in healthcare, or don't join the military, then the job options are retail, a factory or mill, construction, and the restaurant industry, which is one of the top industries on the rise nationally, while simultaneously being one of the lowest paid jobs with wages. I've had a lot of family and friends work in restaurants across the North Country over the years, and while the summers may be great for pay because of the tourists who flock here, the winters are less than desirable. I know people who have had to work more than one job to make ends meet, women in my life who have felt they needed to agree to meet customers back in their rooms while working in resorts because of possibly not earning the best tip, or who have been penalized and not given a tip based on circumstances out of their control, like a customer not liking the taste of the actual meal. And I've spoken to workers who have children that aren't able to work the shifts where they make the most money because of lack of childcare. As a consumer, I expect the employer to pay their workers a full wage. A tip is to reflect the service received, not a means to subsidize a wage. In New York State, we decided that $10.40 an hour is the minimum wage required in order to survive. Yet we have an entire group of in the workforce who are still earning the subminimum wage, $7.50 an hour. The subminimum wage dates back to the emancipation of slaves, when the restaurant and train industry placed newly freed slaves in establishments where they had to rely on tips as their source of income. New York is better than that, especially when we take pride in being a progressive state and leader in our nation. Sure, there's a tip credit, yet the Department of Labor itself has found that 84% of restaurant employers are falsifying or overestimating workers' tips, which then leads to workers having to rely on their tips alone. I have heard these exact testimonies from workers in Jefferson County I've spoken with, some saying, I don't even look at my paycheck because it's just a voided check. Let's also not forget if these workers aren't earning a paycheck, then FICA taxes are not being paid. How does this fare when tipped workers go to file their taxes or go to retire? I had workers who wanted to be here today to share their stories from Jefferson County, but due to the hostile climate, fear of retaliation from employers, and paid lobbyists presenting information, playing on fears of the restaurant workers, they have decided to write written testimonies to remain anonymous from their employers. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Kathy Tucker.
Thank you, Commissioner Reardon, and the New York State Department of Labor for giving me this opportunity to share my comments about Governor Cuomo's proposal to examine raising the base wage paid to tip workers to the regular minimum wage. My name is Kathy Tucker. I live in Carthage, New York, where I have lived for basically all of my life. I go to restaurants all the time. When I dine out, I expect to receive good service, but I also expect that all of the restaurant's workers are being treated with respect and paid a living wage by their employer. No matter what workers are paid, I would never think of not tipping a server for the service that they give me when I'm in a restaurant. My tip, though, is not meant to be a substitute for a worker's base wage or a subsidy for employers so they don't have to pay a fair base wage to their workers. My tip is meant to be a supplement in acknowledgement of good service, a thank you for the service on top of a fair base wage the server should be receiving. In non-tipped industries, employers are paying their workers a living wage. It should be the same in tipped industries. Workers who live on subminimum wage face disproportionately high poverty rates and are often forced to seek public assistance to keep themselves and their families afloat. Customers are expected to pay a substantial portion of these workers' wages via tips, and taxpayers wind up funding the public assistance these workers so often find themselves in need of, all because we have policies in place that allow employers to underpay their workforce. This is wrong. We need one fair wage now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Wilsey.
I apologize, I don't have anything written.
It's quite all right.
Commissioner and panel, thank you for the opportunity to come out and support the employees who work diligently in the service industry on a daily basis. I'm here to support the service industry workers and their efforts in removing the subminimum wage. As a consumer in the service industry, when I go out to have dinner or a meal, it's never in the back of my mind that this person is being paid a subminimum wage. All my focus is on paying my bill, and if I get good service, I leave a good tip. That tip is meant for the server to show my appreciation for a job well done. It's not meant for the owner of the restaurant to say, well, you got this much money in tips, so I only have to pay you this much money an hour to compensate and make up the difference. That's not what a tip is meant for. Also, there's many different types of service workers, and some of those people who work in a service area, they get paid an hourly rate of pay, but they maybe don't make tips. It doesn't matter to me whether a person is serving a meal in a restaurant or what their job is in the service field. They deserve to be paid the same amount of pay as anybody else. And I think that it's unfair for the owners of these restaurants and eating facilities to not be supporting that, because if you pay an acceptable wage, you will get acceptable workers.
Thank you. Mark Keller.
I extend sincere appreciation to Commissioner Reardon and the Department of Labor for bringing this listening forum to the North Country. For regardless of where our politicians say upstate is, we are upstate and we count. I address you today not as a current server or restaurant owner, but simply as a customer, a taxpayer, and a voter. I don't pretend to have as much skin in the game as, say, a server here or an owner, but I do feel I represent an essential point of view as a customer. My position would be as follows. Number one, leave it alone. It isn't broke. I guess other people feel that too. It's not broke. It doesn't need to be fixed. Big Brother Andrew doesn't need to fix it. Unions don't need to fix it. Social theorists don't need to fix it. I believe that people will fix it themselves if they find it broken. What is broken is Governor Cuomo's rhetoric, where he insists that servers deserve to make minimum wage, and yet, by all accounts, they already do. Thanks to the tip credit. I also believe that servers deserve not to be labeled as minimum wage employees, but rather they deserve more. They typically earn more, even if their W-2 doesn't say so. It seems odd to me as a customer and a resident of New York State that the state and Department of Labor would look to propose to actually reduce the real earnings of tip servers by employing this charade of getting them up to the minimum wage. By all accounts, they're already there. Does Governor Cuomo and other progressives have some other silent agenda that's really at work here? Number two, if change is considered necessary on behalf of those poor servers, I suggest that New York State give the servers the right to vote for themselves. Don't listen to other people who aren't in their shoes. If, for instance, the legislature, the governor, dues-hungry unions, or others want to propose that they need more, let the servers vote and give their indication of what their desires and needs are. If owners are so bad to employees, as some uninvolved have said, then empower the servers to have the final voice. At least while they're here and you're here, listen to them and give their testimony the respect that they deserve. You'll be hearing, I'm sure, from those today and others across the state in the days ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
After Kevin, our next 5 speakers are Kristen Petrillo, Suzanne Adderley, Mark France, Maggie Rosinski, and Ashley Common-Smith. If you're one of those 5 people, please come to the front and give me any written testimony you might have. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak to the Commissioner, for speaking and listening to the opinions of those who actually work in the industry day to day. I'd like to call your attention to the vast majority of what has been discussed in previous hearings and over time by the other side about what happens in the industry. Many of these things are covered under current and existing law, specifically the Wage Theft Protection Act, then Labor Law Section 196D, as well as the Governor's Joint Task Force, which was formed to root out just such causes as these folks discussed: stealing tips, not paying overtime, not paying folks a 3-hour show-up pay, not paying the employee makeup pay if they do not make enough to cover the tip credit. All of those are illegal and covered by these statutes and task force. To discuss the makeup pay issue itself, in my specific business, we had over 327,000 man-hours in 2017, slightly over $2.4 million in pay. And I only paid $195 in makeup pay. That's the difference paid between if a person didn't make minimum wage. $2.4 million. I tried to calculate it. There weren't enough zeros on my calculator to give you a percentage. Extremely small. Our tip servers and bartenders average over $17 an hour. It is very clear ample law already exists to address any issues that are brought up. The issue comes down to enforcement of those laws to make sure that all tipped workers earn what they are due. But that will not be fixed by eliminating the tipped wage. It is equally clear that tipped employees make well over the amount now when tips are combined with hourly pay. I have had the opportunity since December, when the Governor announced this potential proposal, to speak with well over 400 tipped employees, many that do not work for me, and I just stop in the restaurant and ask. I'd encourage you to do the same. All over the state, in all forms of businesses, from breakfast counter places, Stella's Diner in Syracuse, great place, I suggest you stop in. From breakfast counter places all the way to fine dining, I have had 0 tipped employees tell me that they thought eliminating the tip credit was going to be good for them. I have also asked them, what was the outcome when their wage went from $5 to $7.50? Less than 2 years ago. They say on average they take home less than $1 an hour more than they did prior. Yet it cost the employer $2.50 plus tax. As hours and positions were cut to pay for this last increase and restaurants closed, and that dollar can easily be made up many times over by the tables they have, this again shows no need to increase their pay as they don't see it in their check. I'm in the process of tracking down just exactly where the rest of that $2.50 went, plus taxes, and when I hope to find out, I'll keep you updated. To give some financial context on how much this increase will cost folks, a closer look at an example. A restaurant in 2015 did $2.5 million. It cost them over $112,000. If this goes through, they will lose, next year, they will lose $160,000. We'll close.
Thank you. Kristen Petrillo. Suzanne Adderley. Is anybody standing up? Suzanne Adderley? Okay, nope. Mark France.
Good morning. Thank you again for allowing everybody to come in and speak to this topic. I represent a large employer, Hart Hotels. We own multiple properties throughout the East Coast. We have 4 large hotels here in New York, Thousand Island Harbor Hotel in Clayton, represented by our GM here today, Hotel Ithaca in Ithaca, our GM is here as well. And we have a new property opening in Chautauqua in mid-July. I brought you some information here today that I will leave with you. I've taken the names and addresses off. But this represents over 200 New York employees in 2017 in our operations that averaged $17 to $25 per hour in our restaurants and $25 per hour plus in our catering facilities. So you've heard time and time again, this is a problem or a solution in search of a problem. I don't know where you're getting your information from, but it doesn't represent how we operate. And for the record, we run all of our tips through payroll. So we pay 100% of the appropriate taxes that are recorded. All right. And lastly, this represents, not including the Chautauqua Hotel, this represents about 1.6 $7 million increase to our company over a 4-year period. If you don't think that's going to fundamentally change how we operate, it will. And everybody in here, some places will close, some places will no longer offer certain services, lunch, close for certain days. The bigger operations will find a way to, but they won't eat that. They won't absorb it. They will fundamentally change how we operate, and it will affect so many people. It's called unintended consequences, and somebody in Albany needs to pay attention to that because it happens all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Maggie Rexinski.
Hello again, esteemed members of the Department of Labor. Last week I sat in front of you and talked about the 19,000, now almost 21,000 people in my group, supporters of the tip credit in NY. This week I want to talk to you about me. My very first job after babysitting was being a busser at a restaurant that no longer has bussers. Fast forward 5 years and I was an expediter at a restaurant that no longer has expediters. I don't want to fast forward 5 years from today and say that I was a server at a restaurant that no longer has servers. The restaurant industry, not just the job of being a server, but the entire industry, has done so much for me throughout my life. I went to community college and paid for it all on my own with no financial aid, and I was able to pay for it because of the restaurant industry. Not just tip positions either. I was a busser, dishwasher, fountain worker, short order cook, host, expediter, manager, server, and now bartender. I finished my degree online and I'm only able to pay my student loans now because of this industry. When I was a student, the industry helped me because it was flexible and a great way to make money to pay my tuition and bills. I could easily work more than one job as well, as I did most of my life, because as with most Americans, we spend beyond our means. I was raised by a man that said, if you don't have enough money, get another job. I've always enjoyed working in the restaurant industry. Restaurant people are fun. The people you wait on, for the most part, are very interesting and willing and wanting to chat. It wasn't long after I finished my 4-year degree that I settled down, bought a house, and started to have children. When we were preparing to buy our house, serving was a great way to make extra cash. Once we had our first child, it was the best way for me to work flexible hours as I had no child care and didn't want to pay for daycare. Now, I have 3 growing children, and this industry is the best way for me to be home with my kids during the day and work at night when their father is home. My point is that this industry has provided so much for me and my family and so many others. The system that is in place now works for so many people. Most of the concerns I heard at the last hearing had to do with labor law violations. There are laws in place for a reason, and employers are breaking them. The entire industry shouldn't be punished for the actions of a few bad people. The changes being proposed, while they would not outlaw tipping, have a detrimental effect on the tipping structure in this state. I read someone's comment on an article after the Long Island hearing, and it said, if prices go up and their salary goes up, tip 10%. Here's the math on that statement. I currently make $500 a week in tips, earning roughly 20% of my sales, which would be around $2,500. If the cost of food goes up 20%, those sales would now be $3,000. 10% of that is $300, and my paycheck only went up $60. I have essentially lost $140 every week, and that man doesn't feel bad because my salary went up. Please, I beg of you, listen to the people of this industry that have come here today.
Thank
I
you.
wish they could be here.
Ashley Coleman-Smith.
After Ashley, our next 5 speakers are Jody Hill, Gary Williams, Michael Simpson, Alatia de Cufa Morales, and Denise Quifo. Please come to the front and please give me any written copies of your testimony.
First of all, I want to say thank you for allowing me to speak about this most important issue, as well as give you a short introduction as to who I am and why I'm speaking about the tip credit in New York. My name is Ashley, and I'm a 34-year-old single mother to a 13-year-old daughter. I'm also a bartender in Lake Placid. I've been in this industry off and on for 12 years. I've also held many jobs in many different areas throughout my working career. I've worked in retail for Casella Waste and as an administrative assistant at a hospital. I've made $15 an hour, and while I was making $15 an hour, I still had to bartend 3 nights a week on top of my full-time job to maintain my lifestyle. By maintaining my lifestyle, I mean paying a mortgage, keeping food in the house, and paying that ever-increasing heat bill in the winter. I do not live outside my means. I am simply surviving in an already poor economy with limited job opportunities. Sorry. I was able to do this because of my second job, which not only allowed me to provide for my daughter, but gave me a sense of self. The second job slowly turned into my main job, and I have never been happier. The sense of fulfillment I receive from this job is priceless. The fact that I get to maintain a happy life, have the flexibility to spend time with my daughter, and do what I love almost seems surreal at times. What seems more surreal, though, is having to explain and plead with you now on something so important to not only me, but thousands of others. When I say this job saved my life, that is not an exaggeration. I was able to escape an abusive relationship and move into a town where I only knew one person and not only managed to provide for myself and my daughter, but thrive. I would not have been able to do so if it wasn't for my previous work skills as a bartender. Anyway, enough about me, because honestly, my main concern is not for me. My main concern is for the hardworking families and business owners who this affects first and foremost. My concern is for the already empty storefronts that are plaguing upstate New York. Our economy, my beloved town, cannot survive the elimination of the tip credit. I appreciate where you think your efforts lie. It's commendable if it wasn't so misguided. If your concern truly is for us, then please continue listening to us. We're here, the people who work in this industry day in and day out. We're telling you we do not need nor want this. I have never met more strong, outspoken, tenacious people in my life than I have in this industry. If the injustice and immoral behaviors of certain business owners was such an overwhelming problem to justify this proposal, you would have heard about it by now, by thousands and very loudly. At the end of the day, this is the question of basic fairness. Eliminating the tip credit is not fair and will destroy this industry on every possible level. Thank you.
Jody Hill, followed by Gary Williams.
Good morning. I really didn't write anything. I'm just speaking from my heart. After 40 years in this industry, starting when minimum wage was 35 cents an hour for a waitress or server, this is an amazing amount of money for a server. And when we go into this business, we know what we're making. We know when we get hired, we're starting at $7.50 an hour because we know we're going to supplement our income with our tips, because people that are in this industry are usually very outgoing, happy people. They give good service because they enjoy what they do. That's speaking for myself, of course. I have come across other people that aren't quite so wonderful, but it is the way it is. And as for these people who think, as never being in the business, that they don't think that we're making enough money, they should walk in our shoes for a little while. You know, it's not an easy job, but it's a fun job. And helping other people, and I believe that that's what I'm doing. People come out and they want to have a good time, they want good food, but in all, they really just want a little bit of camaraderie, and we can supply that. We don't need to be making $10.50 an hour to do that, because realistically, that's not a living wage. If you really wanted to pay a living wage, we'd be making $20 or $30 an hour. And as a waitress with my tips, I'm pretty much making close to that $20 an hour, and that's a whole lot more than $10.50 an hour. And I can't believe that any of you people are working for minimum wage. Realistically, I may be wrong, but I don't think anybody sitting in here is making $10.50 an hour and considering that a living wage. At 62 years of age, I'm getting my Social Security. I don't want to work 40 hours a week to make a couple $100s. I want to spend time with my children and my grandchildren. And being a server, I can do that. I can make enough money in 2 nights so that I have 5 nights to spend with my family. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Gary Williams. Gary Williams. Michael Simpson. Are you Gary? I'm sorry. This is, you're Michael.
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who is here for supporting what they think is right, no matter which side they're on. And also, thank you to the state of New York for hopefully listening. You will now find out why public speaking is not how I make a living. When the United States declared independence in 1776, America was already a tipping culture. The concept had started in England well before we became a country, and we have remained a tipping culture for more than 240 years. The state of New York, as well as other states, have recently made adjustments in how servers have been paid. Currently, when New York State cut the tip credit in half a couple of years ago, which increased the wage rate for servers by about 50%, that was a large increase for the group of restaurant employees that were making the most money in the restaurant. That one change cost our business about $30,000 in one fell swoop. Coupled with the minimum wage increase in the last 3 years, our payroll has increased by 38%, while our sales have increased by half that, or about 19%. The minimum wage increase has also hugely helped the 16-year-old dishwasher, who, by the way, has no real expenses other than perhaps gas for his parents' car. Complete removal of the tip credit will cost our organization another $35,000 more in payroll, which is getting close to, let's just call it scary. Restaurants will close. In a slightly more aggressive wage area like San Francisco, restaurants with a Yelp rating of 3.5 or less are pretty much toast. They are folding up and closing their doors, and you can Google that. New York State will probably follow that example. New York City will probably follow that example if the tip credit is eliminated. We haven't talked about the back of the house employees who've been dealing with fairly minuscule pay increases, while the people who are making the most in the restaurant, as well as the dishwashers, are now making even more. Where will the money come from to give back of the house hardworking, moderately low-paid prep cooks, salad cooks, and line cooks a decent pay increase? Well, I have an idea. Okay, so it's not my idea. What the Clipper may have to do is to become a non-tipping establishment. We will impose a service charge of 15 to 20% on all checks. The money will be controlled by the owner or corporation, and it will get distributed how the corporation sees fit. All of a sudden, the increase in pay that servers were going to get has evaporated, and the 250-year-old tipping custom has gone or horribly disfigured for no good reason. In conclusion, it's easy to see why servers don't want this elimination of the tip credit. It could be the beginning of the end for their moderately well-paid job. Perhaps the governor is really trying to instigate a pay raise for the back-of-the-house employees and secretly wants to cut the pay to servers. This governor is a very tricky guy.
Thank you. Alatia DeCufa Morales. Alatia DeCufa Morales. Alatia? No. Dennis Quifo? I'm sorry, Denise Quifo? Denise? Okay. Christopher Tripp?
After Christopher, our next five are Nicole Tortotis, Marie Medina, Ashley Trim, Susan Mazzara, and Amanda Broderick. If you're one of those five, come to the front and give me any written testimony you might have. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Christopher Tripp. I would like to start off by saying that I am an introvert and I have a huge fear of public speaking, but that's just how much this issue means to me. I'm a waiter at the Old Bryan Inn in Saratoga Springs. I'm an introvert that is able to do my job that requires me to be social, though it may be tough at times. Because of my place of work and the comfortable atmosphere at my place of work, I am able to do my job very well. The industry has actually saved my life. I come from a family riddled with drug addiction and alcoholism. As a 15-year-old high school student, if I wasn't in school or doing homework, I was working. I was too busy to partake. I never had the opportunity. If I hadn't started at the restaurant business in an entry-level position, who knows where I would be today. If the tip credit is eliminated, these opportunities for kids may not be possible. These entry-level positions won't be available. That is the future of the industry. The future servers and bartenders and managers. It's not only the service staff that will be affected either. The kitchen staff, or the kitchen side of it, may change as well. No bonuses or raises in the future. Fewer hours, more work, and the same hourly rate. The industry as a whole will be affected tremendously. I feel very passionate about this because my restaurant is my family. That's right, my family. They have been there for me through all of life's struggles. They have seen me more and know more about me than members of my own blood, my blood family. It would kill me if their lives and jobs were forever changed because I got a raise to $15 an hour, which I did not ask for. I would hate it if one day they just started to disappear. On another note, I feel for these people on the other side of this that have to work for these evil business owners. It is already illegal to steal wages, not pay your employees, not give your employees a break, and to sexually harass your employees. You're right, that is slave labor. But it is not fair to compare these business owners to the owners that do things by the book and professionally. My owner, Steve Sullivan, is the nicest and most caring owner that I have ever had the privilege to work for. He genuinely cares for his employees. He makes you know it straight from the beginning. He works just as hard as we do, if not harder. And there are more employers like that in the Saratoga area and all over New York State. If you can't treat your employees right, you just probably should not be in business. Plain and simple. Thank you.
Nicole Tortatis. Nicole Tortatis. Marie Medina. Marie. Ashley Trim. Ashley. Susan Mazzara.
I'm Susan Mazzara. I've been a server for 43 years. I currently work at the O'Brien Inn in Saratoga. I love my job. I've earned a good living all these years. I could retire tomorrow, just walk away. But what I cannot walk away from are all the people that would be adversely affected if the tip credit is eliminated. When the labor cost is increased, it will have to be made up in some way. Restaurants already operate on a very small net percentage. Price increases will hurt the customers. They may not feel the need to tip as before, hurting the servers. Cutting labor costs will hurt the extra support staff, bussers, hostesses, extra dishwashers, and cooks. Many jobs may have to be eliminated to compensate for the increase. I'm also here to speak for a whole generation of servers who've made this their career for their entire life. I've been speaking with many friends and people I've worked with over the past 43 years. They've put in 30 to 40 years as a server with no college education, no training in anything else, and they are very worried. They are single parents or just people on their own with no family to lean on. They still have 5 to 10 years before they can collect on Social Security. Your Social Security builds as you continue to work, and they're hoping to build it to a level they can live on when they decide to retire. And for so many, that's all they have to count on. For me, if I work 3 more years till I'm 70, I'll increase mine $400 a month more than right now, and that's a lot to give up. Many restaurants are not going to make it. We know this. Maine is proof of what will happen. Restaurants are still dealing with the $2.50 an hour increase from 2 years ago. You cannot continue to make a living with minimum wage and tips if your job is gone. Who's going to hire 55 to 60-year-old people with no college or training and pay them what they're making now? What will happen to them? Please don't eliminate the tip credit. It will hurt many more than it will help. Thank you.
Amanda Broderick.
After Amanda, our next 5 are Kim Gioia, Gordon Clarkson, Tiffany Hodum, Mara Parker, and Carlos Morales. Please come to the front.
Hi again. It's me, number 138 from Friday. For those of you who do not remember me, my name is Amanda Broderick, and I support the tip credit. Today I drove another 4 hours and I took another day off to be here. I am here to support the future of my establishment and the future of my industry family. Let's pick up where we left off last week. I love my job. Last week we heard a lot of testimony speaking about abuse and wage theft. We can all agree the folks on the opposition need your help, but eliminating the tip credit is not the answer. I am here to say on behalf of myself and the thousands of others in my industry, restaurant workers should not all be grouped into their strife. Eliminating the tip credit will not end sexual harassment and bad ownership. We are the workers you represent, and we support the tip credit. We all love our jobs. Please understand we are not victims, and we are happy with the way things are now. The owner of my establishment is more to me than just a boss. He is like extended family. Stephen Sullivan has my back, and he lives by a life motto of leave people better than you found them. In the 10 years I have worked for him, I have seen the compassion and love he has for the people he employs and the industry he works so hard to be a part of. He offers so many amenities that many other 9-to-5 jobs don't. For folks struggling with addiction, he offers rehabilitation. For employees with marital problems, he provides counseling. For those who have car problems or a broken furnace, he provides a loan program. One of my good friends and fellow bartenders suffered from a diagnosis of cancer and never had to worry about keeping his set scheduled shifts because he knew his job would be there for when he got well enough to work. I have a 401k that I contribute 9% to, and my boss matches 100% of the first 5. I feel it important to mention our staff also volunteers their time on Thanksgiving to help feed the homeless and the elderly. There is a reason I have made this my passion. I consider myself lucky to contribute to our organizations, and I am here fighting to keep it alive. In Saratoga Springs, we are a tight-knit community who rely on each other in so many ways. The small restaurants that make up the heart of downtown are directly jeopardized by the elimination of the tip credit. Many of the surrounding eateries are full of people I have worked with during my career as a server and bartender, and I look forward to seeing their faces when I enjoy my day off. Faces I will not see if the tip credit is eliminated. They could not be here today because they are working. We know this will not eliminate tipping. The consequence of elimination is simple. Look at the state of Maine. We know jobs will be cut. We know prices will rise. Customers will stop eating out and businesses will close. Tablets will take over our jobs and all the things you love about dining out will disappear. Please, if you want to help us, listen to the workers. Save the tip credit. You will be saving all of us in the restaurant business and those who enjoy dining out. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you. Thank you.
Kim Gioia. Nope. Gordon Clarkson. Gordon. Tiffany Hodum.
Good morning, Commissioner Reardon and esteemed members of the Labor Department. I do have to say, as many others here, I am extremely nervous, but this is extremely important to me, so I wanted to make it a point to get here. I oppose the eliminating of the tip credit. The elimination of the tip credit is going to devastate my family and the restaurant industry in New York. The tip credit is my legal protection to ensure that I receive a fair wage. Please do not eliminate the tip credit in New York. I did not ask for this, nor did the 8,200 people that have signed my petition against the elimination of the tip credit. When I first heard that Governor Cuomo was proposing eliminating the tip credit, I became fearful that my family and my lifestyle would be devastated. My husband and I both work in the restaurant industry in downtown Saratoga Springs. We've worked so hard to build our life. We've worked so hard to build a life that we currently maintain. As of now, we currently have 2 homes in which we are responsible for mortgage payments and pay taxes on, as well as 2 car payments, health insurance, schooling for my son, as well as activities, and all of the other life expenses that all of us have. I currently average about $27 an hour, as well as my husband. If the tip credit is eliminated, restaurants will be forced to change their business models. These models will then have to go to things such as service fees, and or iPads. With that will force restaurants to eliminate many jobs. It'll impact the income for all of the front of the house and back of the house staff. I've worked in this restaurant in the restaurant industry for 16 years, and I do love my job. I feel that my job is more than just taking and ordering and delivering food to a guest. I strive to always create memorable a dining experience and have the luxury of being able to help assisting in celebrating special occasions for many, as well as building and growing relationships with regular guests. Without the tip credit, servers' incomes will greatly decline, and so will the quality of servers. I've seen and read reports that are out there that are saying women are subjected to experience a higher level of sexual harassment because we rely on tips. I say that this is ridiculous. Being in the industry for 16 years, this is not something that we experience all of the time. Once in a while, this will happen, yes. However, a man who is going to harass a server is a man who is going to harass a woman wherever he may be. I always felt that I could rely on my managers to appropriately handle any negative situations that come our way. As many have said here, working in a restaurant, your staff is your family. That family supports and we protect one another. Please, again, do not disturb the restaurant industry in New York and the financial well-being of my family. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mara Parker.
First of all, thank you for bringing my move. I'm 53 years old and I'm originally from a small town in the Finger Lakes region. I was a single mother of 3 that worked 4 jobs just to make ends meet. Then I started serving and bartending and I was able to quit 2 of those jobs and spend more time with my children. After my children graduated high school, I moved to the Rochester area and served and managed a restaurant for 4 years before moving here to the Thousand Islands area to open a restaurant. When Ray and I decided to buy the restaurant on the St. Lawrence, it was like a dream come true after all. Isn't it the American dream to work hard, own your own business, do what you love and care about, employ people, and hope you make a difference in someone else's life? I knew this was going to be hard. Nothing worthwhile comes easily. So I was ready to jump in, knowing one day I would be able to reap the benefits of working hard. Ray and I have dedicated our lives to the business, working at least 12 to 14 hours a day the first year to make our dreams come true. We had over 28 employees. Then the wage increase went up $2.50 a person, now making it $7.50 a person. This was a huge impact on my business. At the time, we employed 14 servers, 6 bussers, 5 bartenders, and 8 cooks. This was devastating. Not only did the wage increase, so did everything else. All our costs of food, liquor, anything that goes with the restaurant business, and plus if you own the restaurant business, you know you are constantly repairing and buying new equipment. In order for us to make the first increase in wage, we had to cut back on our employees, and now, thank you, I work 12 to 18-hour days, even on the days we're closed. 7 servers, 3 bussers, 4 cooks, and 2 bartenders lost their job because of your last decision, and that is just in my restaurant. And my payroll wages doubled from the previous year. The entire region of the northern New York along the St. Lawrence is basically dedicated and relies on tourism and the weather. For instance, this April has not been very nice with the weather, and we have gone down 50% in our sales. Last year's high waters were devastating to many of the businesses up here along the St. Lawrence. The St. Lawrence River communities of Cape Vincent, Clayton, and Alexandria Bay is made up of mom-and-pop restaurants. There are no chain restaurants. We cannot absorb this increase in wage, the elimination of the tip credit. There will be many restaurants closing, which is imperative for our region to succeed. I've worked with or by servers for over 30 years in small towns and in cities. And in all my years, I've never heard of anyone complain about the amount of money they make or ever be sexually harassed. One of the first items I will be crossing off my list is hiring students under the age of 18 because they do not need to earn a living wage when they can't do all the jobs that are required of them. To be honest, if this wage increases, I will probably close.
Thank you very much. Carlos Morales. Carlos Morales. Thank you. Caitlin Bailey.
After Caitlin, our next 5 are Kay Clifton, Megan Saboro, Kevin Dugan, Carly Bayer, and Pam Winbury. If you're any of those 5, please come to the front and give me written copies of your testimony.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Caitlin Bailey, and I have worked in the restaurant industry for 10 years and in 4 different states. This industry has allowed me to travel without ever having to worry if I will have a job. I started as a fountain worker and have moved up to now a salaried manager. 18 months ago, I decided to move home to be closer to my family, and I was easily able to walk into Outback and have a job immediately. I was welcomed into a new location and easily moved up the ranks. In this industry, we treat each other as family, and I have gained so many family members in the time I have been working. This became more important than ever over the last year. My father went in to have routine surgery in May, and he never returned home. My restaurant was so amazing to me during my time of need. He lived for 37 days after his surgery, and this was the hardest time of my life because my father was my best friend. The staff at the restaurant I worked at allowed me to work when I needed the escape, allowed me to leave when I needed to be with my family. They prayed with me, and they brought my entire family food when we were in the hospital the day my father died. While I was out of work, they took up a collection because they knew that I'd be struggling to pay my bills. When it was time to come back into work, they accepted me with open arms, and I was able to go back to my normal schedule with extra allowances to be with my family when needed. The tip credit is so important to our industry. It allows restaurants to save payroll on the tip staff while paying a competitive wage to the back-of-house employees and keep the cost to our guests affordable. If prices rise in our restaurant, we are going to lose guests, and there is only so much more people can pay to go out to eat. If we lose guests, everyone loses out. There will be less shifts and overall less tips. The system is working the way it is. Please leave it alone. We are not asking to be saved.
Kay Clifton. Kay Clifton. Megansboro.
Hi, my name is Megan Saboro. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I've worked in this industry for 15 years. I've received a college education related to my industry, and I'm here today to tell my story. Our family has been in the restaurant business for 85 years. We employ over 40 people in this area. Over 25% of those people are tipped employees. How will we be able to give raises to our non-tipped employees if we have to continuously increase the pay for more than 25% of our tipped employees? We have been able to survive the minimum wage increases and the tip credit reductions thus far, but not without effect to our daily duties as owners and operators. This industry allows me to meet new people on a daily basis. I have the flexibility in a schedule that others not in this industry are not privy to. I enjoy being able to serve my community and make a lasting impression on those around us. Our customers are like family. Like I said, we have been in this business for 85 years and want to continue to be. The industry is what my life was built on. I have seen my parents, owners, and operators overcome so many obstacles in their many years of service in this industry. Furthering this proposal to eliminate the tip credit will cause already struggling businesses to possibly close. We have survived the many pay increases to the state, but do not see a way that a restaurant that makes such a small profit already will be able to absorb additional cost of losing the tip credit and seeing the minimum wage continually rise. We as a small community who strive on tourism want to be able to continue to employ our community. With these increases, this will only eliminate our number of employees we are able to employ. We make a living wage already. I'm sure others in this room in our industry will agree. We love our jobs, we love our employers, and I urge you to reconsider this. As I said, we already make a living wage.
Thank you. Kevin Dugan.
Good morning. I am Kevin Dugan, Government Affairs Director for the New York State Restaurant Association. I would first like to thank Commissioner Reardon and her staff for hosting today's hearing and allowing testimony on this very important topic. While the association thinks it's wonderful that we have so many industry professionals with us today testifying and making their voices heard, I must admit I'm surprised that we are here at all. That is because we were under the impression that the New York State Legislature settled this issue until at least 2021 during the budget negotiations of 2016. In those negotiations, there was language that was signed into law that mandates that the food service worker wage equal 2/3 of the minimum wage for all regions across the state. Both houses signed up on this bill, and Governor Cuomo himself made it into law. I find it remarkable that before the minimum wage has even been fully phased in, we are back debating this issue. Previous members of various wage boards saw the value in maintaining the tipped wage in New York. A number of times, different wage boards examined this issue and time again decided that the credit should remain intact. I don't know what has changed so drastically that the department is considering taking unilateral action to not only go against the previous wage boards, what the previous wage boards decided, but against both houses of the state legislature. The citizens of the state elect representatives to act for them when it comes to making these important decisions. The New York State Restaurant Association believes that any change to this credit should be done through statewide legislation and not through unilateral departmental action. The restaurant industry is an industry that is built on low profit margins. The majority of eateries that call our state home are trying to survive on margins around 4%. Any and all impacted costs are going to affect that number in dramatic ways, and restaurants will be forced to look to other places to try to make up that difference. With labor costs already set to go up again at the conclusion of this year, these margins will be strained even more. Eliminating the tip credit before seeing what the full impact of a fully phased minimum wage that what the full impact of the fully phased minimum wage has on the industry is borderline irresponsible. We have no idea what the ramifications of what either action would be, and to pile both on the same time could have devastating effects. Others in previous hearings have pointed out that 7 other states do not have the tip credit, and that is evidence as to why eliminating the tip credit is a viable option in New York. However, none of those states actually are New York. None of them have the same economic pressure that our state has. None of them have a minimum wage structured like ours, and none of them are eliminating the tip credit while concurrently increasing the minimum wage. If these states either had never had the tip credit or have eliminated their credit decades ago. Some of the states that folks are pointing out have minimum wage rates that hover around $8 an hour. Comparing other states to ours is not an apples-to-apples comparison, and we need to be wary of trying to replicate others. Another when the economic conditions of the two locations are vastly different. Again, I would like to thank the Department of Labor for hosting this important hearing today. It is important that issues like this are part of our public discourse. However, I would again like to emphasize that any change to this law should be made by those who passed it through the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. Carly Bayer, Pam Winbury. Okay. Thank you. That takes us down to Eric Ingerson. Eric Ingerson. All the Trace Palms people are out. Eric Ingerson, Morgan Ingerson, Nicole Toney, Carrie Green.
After Carrie, our next 5 are going to be Nick Moon, Chris McKinney, Elizabeth Golden, Corey Mott, and Audrey Benami. If you're one of those 5 people, come to the front and provide me with the written copies of your testimony, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First, I would like to thank you all very much for allowing this to happen today. I'm very passionate. I don't know if I can do this.
Why don't you give her this bottle of water? Stop the clock for a second.
I apologize.
Stop the clock for a second. We're watching the clock, thank you.
Okay. I took public speaking in college. I should be able to do this. All right, my name is Carrie Green, and I've been in the restaurant business for 3/4 of my life. As a single mother of a 5-year-old, many, many years ago, I went after the American dream, and I was able to purchase my own restaurant. I work approximately 80 to 100 hours a week. I can work every avenue of my business. I don't ask any of my employees to do anything that I would not personally do myself. My restaurant, the Blue Heron in Shimo, is open year-round and employs 11 to 18 employees who I consider to be part of my family. These employees depend on me to provide a workplace for them to be able to provide for their own families. I employ single parents, high school students, and many other individuals that need to work in a work environment that is flexible to their needs at home. I live in a seasonal area, but choose to remain open year-round to provide my employees with year-round work and a place for my local clientele to go. Eating and drinking out is not a necessity, it is a luxury. If this law is passed, I will be forced to make serious changes in how I conduct my business. I will be forced to close down for long stretches at a time. I will have to lay off key employees, and how do I choose? I will be forced to raise prices to a level that my local blue-collar workers will not be able to afford to pay. October through the middle of May, my customer base is strictly locals. My locals will not be able to pay the prices I will be forced to charge if this law is passed. Please, I beg of you, listen to us. The people in this industry are not looking for change. I sincerely appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nicholas Moon.
Hello again. My name is Nicholas Moon. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing here, I'm sorry. This is my second appearance in front of you, the board here, and it's not going to be my last. I'm going to see you 4 more times after this. I'll make it to each and every one of these hearings, and I'll speak at every one of them, not only for myself, but for my colleagues. My role in the restaurant I work in goes beyond providing the best service one can provide through a wealth of knowledge obtained by hours of training in wine, liquor, beer, and food pairings, as well as cooking methods to provide flavor profiles to provide the most palatable dish to my guests. I'm a captain. I represent my servers, my bussers, my bartenders, hosts, even the cooks and dishwashers, whether it be to my manager, our owner, or to you. No matter the issue, my job is to take their problem and find them solutions to help them through the weeds, even if it means putting myself behind. So today I'm here as a captain of my peers, batting for those people who aren't here to speak for themselves because they can't afford to take the time off from work like we as servers can. Working this job has left me very well off. I've taken the steps necessary to make the most money I can by providing amazing service. Come see me at Longfellow sometimes, I guarantee you'll come back. I take multiple vacations per year. I eat like a king. My cat has more stuff than I do. I challenge you to find a server who doesn't make minimum wage. If they do, you should know that the owners are made to pay the difference. So why then do you think it is that we need more money? We as servers make more money than anyone else in the restaurant, topped only by the owner in some cases. So why is it that you want to make the owners pay us so much more, taking food and money out of the pockets of those that will inevitably lose their jobs, and due to the insane spike in labor costs that can't be covered solely by a jump in the menu prices? The chefs that deserve their bonuses won't see it. They can forget about a raise, all because the people that make the most supposedly need more money. I would hate to look one of those people in the face that lost their job knowing full well they lost it so I can take their money. This is no solution as it has been put. If anything, this is another problem. Unemployment rates will skyrocket. And I will not sit by and let my friends and family be victimized because we're falsely being made out to be the victims. We are not victims. We as servers do not need your help. Our cooks, dishwashers, bussers, expos, hostesses, they need your help. Help them keep their jobs. If you really want to help, leave the wages alone and help us save our industry. I will see you next week with the same message, and the next week, and 2 more after that, until I can rest satisfied that I have fought as hard as I can for myself, for all of you, and for the rest of our peers in the industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris McKinney, Elizabeth Golden.
I'm not very good at public speaking, but I'm going to give it a whirl. I'm here today to represent my business, my employees, and our industry. I'm 54 years old. I've been in this business since I was 16 years old. I opened my own business in 2003. I presently employ 25 plus employees during the off season and over 40 during the summer months. It'll be a very sad day if O'Brien's and Clayton has to shut down. We are kind of the hub of our community. We help out with many benefits, fundraisers, any kind of donations that take place in our little town, and it's a very quiet winter for us. As some people have said, this year, the weather, which we are so weather dictated, has really hurt us bad. Upstate New York is comprised of many seasonal tourist businesses. Our main season is Memorial Day through Labor Day, 3 months. I managed to stay open during the winter, which is very difficult. I'm actually going into the hole about $40,000 before I start out the summer this year, which I do not know how I'm going to do that. The weather and economic conditions are our main impacts of our business. Decisions made out of our control are continually having a great impact for small businesses. This includes insurances, utilities, taxes, workman's comp, payroll taxes. Is Governor Cuomo's idea behind this to increase payroll taxes? Is that we don't really understand what the whole reason is for? We make good money. Payroll tax, workman's comp insurance will increase immediately, which we are expected to absorb. It's a domino effect. This in turn is going to increase our food and beverage costs and affect our consumers. They cannot absorb this anymore. They will not eat out. The ones that come out 3 or 4 times a week now may come out 1 time. The state does not need any more people drawing unemployment. Raising the minimum wage could result in our employees making less money. Our servers and typical servers make between $17 and $21 an hour. I have told, as I said, I've had customers tell me if it keeps going up and they have to absorb any more costs, that they will probably not be able to visit us quite as much. The back of our business, our prep lines, our cooks, our head chefs will feel the impact of this also. Every year they expect to get a raise. How can we keep doing this? We as employers, we will have to decide what job is worth versus our customer price of our product. Do we eliminate hostesses, our bus people, and again, more jobs will be eliminated. What are we doing? Do we want a career path as a dishwasher to make $12.50? And probably eventually, I know Governor Cuomo would like to shoot to $15. I have had conversations with Senator Patty Ritchie and Addie Jenny, and I believe that is his goal in the end. We will definitely not be able to stay open when that happens. There will be no summer jobs for high school or college kids. New York State Department of Labor has put certain things that we have to follow for the 14 to 16-year-olds, and so we can't make them do certain jobs, but we have to pay them these high wages. Oh my God.
Thank you. Corey Mott. Corey, okay. Audrey Bonami. Audrey. Nope. Elizabeth Nicholson. Michael Schenk.
After Michael, our next 5 are Sandra Wilkins, Shayna Brown, Danielle Kiddo, Tammy Byers, and Gail Smith. Please come to the front if you're one of those 5 people.
Good morning. Good morning. Senator Ritchie asked that I attend on her behalf and read the following letter. Dear Commissioner Reardon, thank you for the invitation to attend the New York State Department of Labor's hearing today on the governor's tip credit proposal. Unfortunately, due to legislative session in Albany, I am unable to attend this important hearing, but will take this opportunity to submit testimony. Fair pay for hard work is an idea that we can all get behind. However, the governor's proposal to eliminate the tipped wage for restaurant servers in New York is neither fair nor does it reward hard work. In fact, it will likely hurt the very people that it is intended to help by raising costs for small business owners and reduce the number of available jobs we so desperately need to move our economy forward. Our current laws set the tipped wage at a rate slightly below minimum wage. That rate, $7.50 an hour, is set to increase along with minimum wage over the next few years. When that happens, these wages will be the highest in the country, more than twice that of our surrounding states. The law already protects against any worker, tipped or not, from earning less than the statutory minimum wage. It's my hope that the governor and commissioner will truly listen to those most directly impacted, such as the dozens of servers who I've spoken with and clearly voiced their opposition to this plan, including a college student who, with her customers' tips, knows she can earn enough money over the few short months of our peak tourism season to help bridge the gap between her tuition and the amount that her hardworking parents are able to pay for her education. A single mother of two with a full-time job who struggles to find the time to also work a few hours a week waiting tables, but must because she struggles more to make ends meet. And countless career servers who enjoy and need the flexibility of scheduling, upward earning potential, and the diversity of positions that our hospitality industry offers. In addition, these individual servers will not be the only ones who will lose out if this proposal is approved. Eliminating the tip wage will also raise the cost for employers and most certainly lead to higher prices for consumers. Our region as a whole will also suffer. In the North Country, the hospitality industry is the second largest employer after the public sector. More importantly, the Department of Labor projects that in the next few years, the number of hospitality jobs in our region is poised to grow faster than any other industry we have. More so, tourism on our Lake Ontario and Thousand Islands communities has recently taken a substantial hit from last summer's devastating floods, and higher wages could further derail the recovery and our potential for growth. Compensation through earned tips contributes to a stronger work ethic and improved performance. It raises standards for the industry and helps ensure better quality service. Eliminating this incentive would leave a bad taste in the mouths of consumers, employers, and servers themselves, and I feel the state should no longer be considering this plan to eliminate the tipped wage. Sincerely, State Senator Patty Ritchie.
Thank you very much. Sandra Wilkins? Nope. Danielle Kitto? Tammy Byers?
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. My name's Tammy Byers, born in Rochester, New York, but I've been in the Thousand Islands, Clayton region for over 30 years by choice. Why did I say that? I said that because I've been waitressing since I was 16 years old. I waitressed throughout the city of Rochester and throughout the Thousand Islands region. Went to college for business management. My day job is I'm a senior sales manager at Bonnie Castle Resort. Once again, wanting to reiterate that our area, our community, the Thousand Islands region, is strictly seasonal based. It's based on tourism and travel, which we're all well aware. Those that choose to stay open year-round take a huge hit, and most of them go in the red so they can stay open during the peak season. I'm not here to tell a sob story, but if it sounds like it, it's just the truth, and it's a story from my heart. So I started waitressing at 16 years old because my mom left when we were all little, and my dad raised us. And I had to waitress to buy school clothes and everything else that went along with that. My lunches, Dad worked 2 jobs. So this industry has pulled through for me since I was 16. Fast forwarding to 2008 when I had my real estate license. Had my real estate license for 15 years. During the crash of 2008, I was married at the time. My husband did numerous tours in Iraq and Afghanistan and was getting out of the military because it was imploding our marriage and our family, for lack of a better word. So while he was getting out at the end of his tour. He wasn't getting out medically. He wasn't getting out for any other reason. He was just honorably discharged. During that process, an old injury flared up in his back to the point where he could not walk. But he was no longer active duty. He was now out of the military, so now we were dealing with the VA, which, if anyone in this room knows, the VA takes months and months and months or years to process. We had just purchased a new home. We had been in it for about 6 months when the real estate economy crashed in 2008, and we were solely living on tips because I had to go back to waitressing because real estate took a tank. So now fast forwarding, now I'm a single mom with 2 kids, own my own home and have for over 10 years. I work 3 jobs. My day job is Bonnie Castle sales, and I have 2 high season summer jobs of waitressing. And if he eliminates this tip credit, I'm afraid I'm probably going to have to put my house up for sale. Thank you.
Thank you. Gail Smith, followed by David Nicola.
Thank you all so much for this opportunity for us all to speak. It's hard for all of us to not cry. I'm going to try not to. My name is Gail Smith. I'm the operations manager at the Westview Lodge in beautiful Henderson Harbor, New York. We are seasonal. We have the nice sunsets there, hence the Westview. Anyway, last year was a horrible year. We had high water. The docks did not go out. The boats didn't go into water till the 30th of July. The campers weren't there. We were down, for us, at least a third of our business. Okay, so now it's 2018. The season's coming back, right? We're all watching the high water. Somehow we paid the liquor license. Got that done. We're all paid. That was a whew. And we're starting to get, the college kids are like, hey, can I have my job back and this and that. We had to go down to 1 full-time bartender when it went to $7.50. Now, I won't lie to you, she's pretty fast, but she breaks glasses and she throws those little cocktail forks away. So that, we have to, I just put that in the waste at the end of the year. What are you going to do? Yeah, so we find ways to do this, okay? So anyway, I am from Henderson Harbor. My dad ran Stony Island. It is owned by Phillips Petroleum. And my grandmother was the head housekeeper. So what better place to put a teenager, right, on an island? So there I was at 13, and my grandmother said something that I took to my heart, my soul. She said, you are a public servant. You must always have customer service and love your customer. It'll come back to you. And you know what? Throughout the years, I've been in corporate sales, but I had to stay in the industry because here I am, a single mom, like a lot of us. But we're smart enough to go work the weekends and make the tips. And there was one time, I remember I had the flu all week, and I called my weekend boss. I said, look, Dave, I got to open and I got to close Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I got rent on Monday. And my Hulk son, who needs a new pair of sneakers, size 13, he's got to have them. So I think I can do it if you let me work. Okay, folks, I worked 30 hours. 30 times $10 is $300. I made $1,000. I paid rent. And the kid got the new shoes. Let's go back to the Westview Lodge. This weekend we had a fire. We are closed. I haven't slept. I've got it. We do have insurance. We paid that. I don't even know how. So I've got to somehow get that restaurant open. The Derby that is in 3 weeks that was canceled last year from high water, we're the only motel open in Henderson Harbor. I probably won't sleep for another week, and that's probably why I'm not going to cry here. I'm just going to ask you, isn't it your job to create jobs? Those college kids need jobs, and the businesses need to stay open.
Thank you. David Nicola, Jessica Diaz. Chris Cortez will follow Jessica Diaz.
Hello again. Yes, my name is Jessica Diaz. I participated in the last hearing. I was the very last person that you got to hear after a very long, trying day. This is definitely a different vibe up here. I think this is part of why I choose to go to I'm going to go to every single one as well. So we're all going to ride this from the right to the wheels fall off here. So, every time, whether it's 4 hours or half an hour, again, we're one people speaking for as many that we can behind us, all our coworkers that have to work today and everything else. But what I noticed about this particular hearing is our location has got a lot to do with the people that have come. When we were in Long Island, we're talking about a bigger area of New York. This is a more, reserved area, like they were saying. A lot of, especially here, you're really seasonal, So I just guess what I'd like to kind of bring to the table is we've already kind of established that we know restaurants will close. We know we're going to be losing bussers and hostesses and all that stuff. Some of this information is saturated in our heads now. Like, we didn't know now, but now we really know. We've heard from customers, we've heard from workers, we've heard from owners. I guess I just really feel like there's a tear here between the restaurant industry and the other tipped businesses. And the restaurant industry is really it's so much more unique, and it's just different all the way around the board. I don't kind of understand in a way how we're all lumped into one. And I understand in the Bronx or whatever there's going to be two, the restaurant industry and the others. But it's like we're both fighting for our livelihoods, but yet we're being torn apart because of the result of it. And I mean, we all know you got Washington, D.C. and Maryland, yet they're secluded, because it's like 2 miles of Washington, D.C. with a different zip code and everything else than the city. And that's like what New York City is kind of like. New York City is very, very different than anywhere else in New York. And you got California, you got big properties, and you got, open areas and big congested cities. New York State is very different all the way around the board. I mean, you've got everybody thinks New York is the city, but as you clearly see, it is not. We've got major farm areas and woodlands and everything else up here. And people forget about these people that are hanging on by a thread up here because we're waiting for tourism and everything else. It's not just the big hustle and bustle of the city. New York State it's a blend of all these people, the people that, hunt and gather, and then you got, there's a big variety, you know what I mean? It's huge. So just take that into consideration. New York is a big area.
Chris Cortez, and our last speaker will be Hillary Lynn.
Hi, thank you for hearing us today. My name's Chris Cortez. I'm from Binghamton, New York. I own Cortez Restaurant. I've been there since I was 8 years old. I'm 55 now. Anyway, I have 70 people working for me. Restaurant's about 70 years old. I think Megan Sabaro's place beats me by about 15 years. Anyway, another thing, our restaurant, if you do everything just right on a good day, on a good year, I should say, your bottom line might be 4 to 5%. This last wage increase, which I have 70 people working for me, probably half of them are tipped. This last wage increase, which brought us from $5 an hour to $7.50 an hour, cost me about $60,000 a year. I held off raising my prices as long as I could. I began to fall behind in some of my bills. I was forced to raise prices, and with some grumbling from customers. I have customers that range everywhere from lawyers and doctors to the regular person, all the way down to the elderly and the people that live in our neighborhood, which is not exactly an affluent neighborhood around my restaurant. If we have another wage increase, that's going to cut into my 4 to 5%. I'm going to have to raise prices, and we'll have to, I really can't, it's going to be difficult to cut staff if I'm going to maintain service, so prices or service charge will have to go on. And what that will do is it'll devalue our money, is what's going to happen here. And yes, they're getting paid this minimum wage, they're making less, because I can have a server in one of my 5 table stations work 4 hours and knock down $150, $200. That's not minimum wage. What will end up happening, prices will go up, and dining out will become something for the elite. And we will, all of our elderly customers and our not so well-to-do customers, they're out. They won't be able to afford it. So what am I left with? then I will be able to cut staff once the volume goes down. There's one thing that Andrew Cuomo could really do to help us get out of our way.
Hillary Lynn. Hillary?
I'm actually not Hillary. I'm Nikki. I'm with Hillary.
I'm sorry, we are not allowing people to speak for other people. If Hillary...
I'm actually speaking for myself. Can I do that?
Okay, cool, yeah. Yeah, you're the last person, go ahead. But remember, we're not going to have people speaking for other people from now on.
Yes, I'm actually speaking for myself.
Okay.
My name is Nikki Miller. I'm the general manager of Wheatfield in downtown Saratoga Springs, New York. I started in this business when I was 16 years old. I started as a busser, like a lot of people here. I worked my way through being a server, a bartender, a cook, a manager, and now I'm the general manager of a very thriving business downtown, which I'm very proud of. The flexibility of working in a tip position allowed me throughout my life to go through 10 years of college without accumulating any debt. I earned my wages. I earned them through working hard and turning my guests into regulars and turning my regulars into family members. This career allowed me to get an education and also lead the active lifestyle that I love to live. I chose the career I'm in now because I do love it. I manage a staff of over 45 to 50 people in the height of the season. They're my family now, and I would do anything in the world to protect them, including speaking here today, since I hate speaking in public like this. They can't be here as it is a 4-hour trip. A lot of them are parents, some of them are teachers, and a lot of them are, some of them are caregivers of their elderly parents that cannot be left alone. They're homeowners and they are taxpayers. I work with them and help them to plan a schedule, whether it be day, night, whether it be full-time or part-time, to help them achieve their goals in life, whether it's in this industry or a different one. I'm grateful to manage a business that allows such flexibility. I know what will happen to many of them if this passes. I can't bear to think of it. I would lose half my family. I know that. I'm also an active volunteer in the community as the business and tourism. The consequences of what this would do to our hospitality town it's devastating. Please don't do this.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming, and that is the end of the hearing here in Watertown.